Cool. So welcome to the session 5 of Creative Futures. Welcome back to those who've been to a different session before, and welcome to the new people who this is their first session. So just a quick reminder to project people. So the people from Study Hire working on the Creative Futures programme is myself and my colleague Jess, who you can see on the screen. So we're the two people that are going to be on every session, and you can contact us afterwards if you have any questions. Today we're using Zoom webinar. So if you have any questions, you'll see there's a chat box at the bottom of your screen. So any questions for our audience, for our panelists, just type them in the chat box there. You'll also see raise hand, but that's not something we're using today, so you don't need to worry about that. And then the second function we're going to be using is polls. So during the presentation, we'll launch some polls and you can just answer them by ticking the box that you think is relevant to you.
Yep, so for those of you who might not have come to a previous webinar or haven't heard of Study Hire before, we are a partnership of different universities and colleges from across Swindon, Buckinghamshire, Oxfordshire and Berkshire. And our job is to work with secondary school students to put on different events and activities like the one tonight to help you make informed decisions about your future. And as Jo said, it's lovely to see so many of you here today, and we are so delighted that we're joined by the Bristol Old Vic Theatre School this evening. We've got Anastasia, Maria and Katie joining us today. I'm going to hand over to Anastasia first. Welcome all and thank you.
Well, good evening everybody. It's lovely to meet you all. As Jess mentioned, I'm Anastasia and I've got Katie and Maria here, and we're going to do a bit of a talk at the beginning where I'll give you some information about the school, how we train and the courses, so you've got all that information for you. And then we'll go into a demonstration from Katie and Maria around theatre design, and you might be able to see a little model box just here. So I'm just going to share my screen and get the presentation going. Could somebody let me know when you can see my screen?
Yeah, it's working now.
Yeah, lovely. Well, thank you. So fab. So I'll dive straight in. And so we are a school that opened in 1946 by Sir Laurence Olivier, who was a prolific actor in the mid-20th century. We are independent from the Bristol Old Vic Theatre, which you might know. We are the theatre school and we are separate, even though we started in the same place. Our degrees are validated by the University of West England. So if you come to study with us on a BA course, you do get a full accredited degree. And we're a really, really small institution. So there's only 200 students in total. So everyone really gets to know each other. And I mean, there's some big names up here. We've got some pretty famous alumni. We've got Olivia Colman, we've got Daniel Day-Lewis, and more recently, we've got Josh O'Connor and Erin Doherty, who were in The Crown this year, and Antonia Thomas, who was made famous in Misfits. If you've watched it, or Lovesick, I would definitely recommend watching those. I think Misfits has just been added to Netflix. So those are some of our alumni there. And then, so just to go into our courses then. So this is quite a dense slide I'm going to explain. So we have a variety of undergraduate degrees, which are ones that you complete straight after sixth form or college. And we have a BA in professional acting. So a BA means it's 3 years and it's a full degree. And then we also have an FDA or a BA in production arts. So an FDA stands for a foundation year in arts, which is a 2-year course instead of 3. And you don't come away with a full degree, but you do come away with the foundation year in arts qualification. So it means you're spending less time at the school and less money, but you come away with similar qualifications there. And production arts is all things backstage or offstage, as we like to call it. So stage management, lighting, prop making, scenic crafts, film, TV and radio production as well. And we also have another course which has an FDA or a BA option in costume for theatre and film. So costume, perhaps you might do making costumes, hiring costumes, learning how to work a budget and working with the designer to make sure that the costumes fit the brief. And you'll also do things like making quick repairs after a night if a costume's broken, or things like that. We also then have a variety of postgraduate degrees as well. So Maria here is a postgrad student, and she'll talk a bit more about her experience later. But these would be after you've completed your first degree. So once you've gone and studied whatever you want to do somewhere else, you can come to us and do a master's, and you can see the different ones we've got there. So just moving on now to how conservatoire training is different from a university. So as you can see on here, a standard university might have 25,000 students. As I mentioned earlier, we've got 200, and it means that we have really small class sizes, varying between 28 to 4 sometimes. That might seem a bit daunting, but it means you become really good friends with the people on your course. And also, because all the courses merge in together when you do shows, you meet absolutely everyone in the school and everyone becomes friends with everyone. Now, whilst at a university, you might have essays and exams and you get a 2-1 or a 2-2. We don't have that ethos. We have a pass-fail ethos, because we are training you to do the job, and that can't really be quantified in numbers. So that's our ethos there. And we have a practical style of learning. So whilst at a uni, you might have lectures where you might be in there with 80, 200, 10. We have a vocational way of teaching. So you may have some very small lectures on culture or text, but they're very far and few between. But you'll be doing a lot of small group learning with like a lot of contact hours. So you'll have back-to-back classes, and you'll perhaps one moment you'll be doing stage combat, one moment you might be doing voice and dialect, or if you're in production side of things, you might be doing lighting in the morning and sound production in the afternoon, or prop making. So we have a really high number of contact hours as well. So we generally expect you to be in probably 9 to 5, depending on the shows you're working on. But also, as you can see from the slide, there is some evenings and weekends, because all of our productions are for the public. And the reason we do this is because we are preparing you for the industry. We are preparing you to be professionals, and this is what the industry is like. So it is very intensive, but you get a lot of bang for your buck, basically, and you get a lot of teaching for the amount you're spending. So we have 3 sites at the Old Vic Theatre School. We have the main site, which is called Downside, where the bulk of teaching takes place, and it's where student support and a lot of the staff sit. We then also have 2 other sites called Sheen Road in Bedminster, which is in South Bristol, and then Christchurch Studios, which is in Clifton near the main site. So it means you get a real feel for Bristol as well if you're travelling between the sites. So just to go into a little bit more detail about the professional acting course. So whilst we say theatre in our name, we are training you for acting in all media, so theatre, film, TV and radio. And we have this real ensemble ethos. We have a close-knit cohort with the people you study with, and we want you to come away as a good team player, that you support your peers in acting, because acting is a whole group effort. It's not just one person on their own. And as I've mentioned before, and I'll probably mention again, we treat you as professionals in training. So you can expect long working hours and working on evenings and weekends for shows. But that is just what you'll have in the industry when you finish with us. Also, as I mentioned, we collaborate across courses. So you get to meet people who do costume, who do production, lighting, all this kind of stuff. So it's not just that you're only in your own little bubble, because there's it's not just the actors that put on a show. And then there's a bit about the course structure here. In year 1, briefly, we teach you your core skills. So we teach you how to do stage combat and dialect, movement, or reading texts, and then you apply these in your second year. And the way it's worked previously is that you've had 3 community tours. Perhaps one of them was a nativity, one of them was Macbeth, and then one of them was a West Country tour out in the community. Now, this is changing next year. because we want the curriculum to be more fit aligned with our learning objectives. So that is subject to change, but do check back on our website, because that will be confirmed with what that looks like. But then in your third year, you move into fully staged productions, and this is where we get you ready for the industry. We do showcases, career prep, get people signed up with agents, things like that. So that's what the professional acting course looks like for us. And in the little bubble, if you want to look at any of our short films, please do head to the Vimeo channel. So we also have a training model. So it might be odd to think, but we don't have our own theatre on site. Now, this is a calculated, deliberate choice, because we take all our students to prominent Bristol venues that you can see here. You've got, you know, Circa Media, which is a church. You've got the Tobacco Factory, where all of the seats can change. So you can really get a feel for different spaces. Now, it gives our students a chance to experience different audiences, and that for the technical students specifically, a chance to, you know, put lighting up or make the set fit, and make the sound and everything fit with the space. So it really makes you really well-rounded then as an industry professional when you finish with us. And then this is just some of the shows that we've worked on, and we work on really professional standard shows. So Nicholas Nickleby here, pictured at the bottom right, received several 5-star reviews, and it's something to be said. You can see the fantastic costumes here, the amazing set that's been created in Let the Right One In. We're just as much about acting as we are about technical offstage work. So really do consider us for that. So moving on then, if you want to be an actor, there will be auditions. We audition everybody who applies. And this year, preliminary auditions are going to be on Zoom. So they'll take about 15 to 20 minutes, and they are interactive. There are 2 auditioners on the call, so it's not a self-tape. And some pointers are: make sure that you've got a good internet connection, make sure you're in a safe space, you know, get whoever's in the house to go out so you feel completely comfortable to be able to express yourself in the way that you want. And contrast is important. All of the audition information is out there, but contrast is important. So make sure that perhaps you're doing either a very serious piece and a comedy, or an old piece, perhaps a piece of Shakespeare versus a modern. We really want to see the variety and depth of your acting potential. And then if you are successful at preliminary auditions, we'll bring you in for a recall. Previously, this was on Zoom. This year, we're hoping they'll be in person. And you'll likely do, you know, different workshops and perhaps a monologue. But again, that's going to be confirmed on our website. And if you do have any questions, please do feel free to email us at that email address just on there. So that's the audition process for those courses. And now I want to talk about the BA Production Arts for stage and screen, because I've gone over costume already. So this is the final course that we offer. And this is a very much a technical side of theatre, and all, as it says, all the core disciplines need to work professionally and in production industry. So we really teach you all of these skills that you need to be able to go into the industry afterwards. And it's great if you're practical or technically minded, making things, organizing people. For example, stage management, you run the show from behind the scenes. You make sure everyone is where they're supposed to be, that props are there, that lighting all goes at the same time, and that it all runs smoothly. So in your year 1, you get to delve into each element of production arts, you know, scenic construction. And then in your second year, you start to work on professional theatre, and you'll spend 11 weeks at our Christchurch sites to start to work on shows. And you'll also start to work out what area you want to specialise in for your final year. And in your final year, you'll specialise in an area, and you'll almost act as the head of department for that year. And for that discipline. So it's really about making sure that you have the support at the beginning, and then we let you lead on things later on down the course. So just a bit about making your application for a technical course. Now, for production arts, we do look at your personal statement that you'd have to provide to us and a portfolio. Now, that might seem a bit scary, but it's really just a place for you to demonstrate your enthusiasm for live events and to demonstrate your understanding of what the work involves. Now, your portfolio could comprise of pictures of things you've worked on, shows, or and like descriptions of what your roles were and things like that. But the portfolio description information will be on our website. So if you do want to apply for this, please do have a look, because it will be excuse me, it will be pretty thorough for you. Okay. And then we do interview. So you will be invited to talk to our course tutors, and then they will decide after that. And for costume, we do interview all candidates who meet our standard requirements. Now, as a school, we don't have academic requirements. We follow the standard University of West England requirements, because we are all about practical ability and all about your application of practical knowledge. We're not about how well you can write an essay. So that is something to consider as well. And the application deadlines for 2022 are to be confirmed, because with COVID, it's ever changing. We don't know what these deadlines are going to be. So please do check our website. And something that I do want to mention is that there are 2 systems for UCAS, and our courses are split across them. So for production arts, you can find that on the normal UCAS website, probably, that you know about. However, for the acting course and for costume, this is held on UCAS Conservatoire. It's exactly the same system, it's just called a different name. But please do remember that, and it is on our website as well if ever you forget, or please feel free to email us. So it's just a little bit on fees and funding. Fees and funding can get really boring, but people think that drama schools, you can't apply for government loans. You absolutely can. You get your tuition fee loans and your maintenance loans, which you do repay when you graduate, but it's a small percentage and it's based on what you earn. And then we also have some scholarships as well you can apply for if you need that financial support. So you can either get them from the government, or we have some income assessed scholarships from BOVs, that's us, and the CDD is our sort of body that we sit within, if you're wondering what that is. And also we have care leavers and estranged students bursaries as well. And if you don't qualify for any of those, we have a student hardship fund that you can apply to. And we also, as the final point, have an audition fee waiver. So our audition fee does cost £25 if you want to apply for the acting course. However, there is a waiver scheme. So if you were eligible and wanted to, you could apply for that to then get that audition fee waived for you, if that was a barrier to you being able to access an audition. One final slide from me then. Just going to talk a bit about employability. We, as I've mentioned time and time again, we produce industry ready graduates, and that is really at the heart of what we do. And you get taught by experienced industry professionals. A lot of the people who teach have been in the industry or are still currently in the industry. So it's really fantastic teaching, and you really get a sense and real sort of mentoring from those teachers. And you know, think about the skills that you'd come away from one of these degrees. Incredible communication, because you're working in groups all the time, all of that problem solving, and time management when you have to, you know, manage your really manic day and perhaps your social life and see all of the other commitments. You really come away as an incredibly skilled, well-rounded graduate. And, you know, will help you launch your career as well. So we do things like showcases for actors, exhibitions, and placements as well, where industry professionals come and have a look at your work. And you know, a lot of our acting students go away with agents, and our production students and technical students are never out of work. You know, it is an area where there are fewer people, so you're never out of work for these types of technical courses. So that's enough of me warbling on. I hope that was informative. If you do have any questions, please do feel free to pop them in the chat and we'll get to them after the demonstration. But for now, I'm going to hand over to Katie, who will take you through a bit of a demonstration on the technical side of things. All right, thanks everyone.
Want to launch your polls, Anastasia?
Oh, yes, please, if that's okay.
Yeah, we'll just do them before we head over to Katie.
Sorry, yeah.
So the first one's, yeah, are you interested in studying, working in performing arts or in art and design? So they're answering that. Can you see that on the screen?
Yeah, I can see the question.
Oh, you can't see the response.
I can't see the response.
So we've got a couple more to answer. So yeah, we've got 95% have said yes to that one.
Lovely.
The next one's, yeah, you can see the question on the screen. And for that one, 73% said yes.
Lovely.
Oh, and then 70% has changed to now. Somebody else voted at the end. And then the last one. Yeah, 91% said yes to that.
Fab. Well, thank you, everybody. Great. And I'll pass on to Katie now.
Hello, everybody. So my name's Katie Sykes. I'm a theatre designer. And in a nutshell, if you were even thinking about what being a theatre designer is, or would it be something I'd be interested in doing, one of the main things is that everybody that Anastasia talked about who are training at the Bristol Theatre School, every single one of those people you would get to interact with if you were a theatre designer. We are probably the single member of a theatre making group that gets to interact and collaborate with everybody. So directors, other designers often, all the actors, all the technical teams, like the scenic artists, the stage managers and all those people, and prop makers and puppet makers, choreographers, flight directors, musicians. So we have a really, really broad kind of job description, and it never ever gets boring. But what I'm going to do first, after I've just said that, is show you this. And this is a model box of a set. And this was a set that I designed about 4 years ago for the Globe Theatre in London, which specialises in Shakespeare. And this was for a touring production of a play called The Two Gentlemen of Verona, which I'd be really surprised if any of you have read, because it's quite an unknown play. And this toured all over this country and went to Europe, and then eventually landed back in London and was put on in the small theatre at the Globe, which is called the Sam Wanamaker Playhouse. And we decided, me and the director decided, that we wanted to sort of give it a little bit of a kick, because it's a bit of a funny old play. It's a bit of a tricky one. And so we thought we'd set it in the 1960s, which is why it looks like this, because I based it on some of these images that came out from that era of these kind of what we call pop art images, which was an art movement in the 60s, very popular art movement in the 60s. And the director wanted to have lots of live music in it. So inside this little booth here was where we had a live band that played throughout the whole piece. And because this was touring outdoors as well as indoors, I had to create a space that was going to protect them. So all those sorts of things are what you have to consider when you do a set design. What are the practical implications of what you're going to do? And also, what's the artistic kind of idea behind it? So if you're interested in art and drama and storytelling and history and architecture and fashion and all sorts of things, and movement and music and things, then maybe theatre design might be for you. So the way we make these models, we use, I'm just going to pull this out so you can see the little person up there. That gives you an idea of the scale. We build these at 1 to 25, which means that so you can see here, actually, you can see all the different things. I've made it out of card and wood and bits of plastic and things. So we build the models at 1 to 25, and everybody builds them at that scale. That's a sort of standard scale. So that 1 metre is about that big at 1 to 25. So this whole unit was about 4.5 metres wide by about 2.5 metres high. So this was a kind of little lovely band booth. It was a bit like designing a gig, actually, this show, rather than a theatre piece. And at the side here, we had ladders, so you could get up onto here. And then all around these yellow and orange and red bits were these kind of grooves where we put LED strip. So the whole thing lit up. And so, yeah, so that's in a kind of nutshell how you might design a model. So you'll do the concept with the director, and maybe in conversation with some of the actors that are going to be in it. You come up with sketch models, which will be made out of sort of just cardboard and what we call a white card model, and you present that. And then you go back, and depending on what the production manager, who's the person that's in control of all the budget and all the technical things, you would also present this model to the scenic artists and the stage management and the technical crew and the lighting designer. You spend a lot of time in meetings trying to convey your idea as clearly as possible. And then you would build this final model. And I've actually put this little backdrop in here, but this comes from a different show, but it was just because this, when it went out on tour, this didn't have a backdrop because it was touring to all sorts of outdoor venues. But this I put in just to give you an idea. So sometimes in theatres, you'll have lots of different backdrops that will fly in and out. What we call, when we say fly in and out, means you can, when you've seen shows, that things have come in and out. And the whole thing has to be kept to a certain budget as well. So you actually have to be quite good at thinking about how much things might cost, but you get help with that. And so, for example, I can't quite remember how much this set cost. I think it was about £15,000, which is an awful lot of money, isn't it? But compared to something like Hamilton, which would probably be about £100,000, and maybe the costume budget might have been about £60,000. But early on in your design career, quite often you're designing things for maybe £200 or £500. So it's really, really varied job, and there's lots of different skills that come into it. So I'm just going to talk to you, so I'll just show you some little, so the costumes that went with that. So these were some of the costumes. So they were sort of 1960s in their style. So again, with the costumes, you think about the sort of era that you're doing it in, and you might look for lots of visual reference and things around that. So this was just other drawings and things. And these are lovely because you can show them to the director and you can show them to the actors. So various things. This was based on a kind of image of John Lennon, for example, from that time. And yeah, and then when you're actually doing the costumes, this is another nice one as well. This was sort of, you wanted him to look like a mod from the, so you do lots and lots of brilliant research around that. You look at hairstyles, you might look at the fabrics that people wore, you might look at old magazines. And I mean, now that we've got all the sort of stuff that you can look online, and you make up all these reference sheets for what you might want. And then this is actually, it's not from this show, but for example, this is a worksheet that I put together because I wanted to, this was for another production, a thing called Swallows and Amazons, a show called Swallows and Amazons, and we needed a parrot puppet. So I put together all these images to show the puppet makers. So that's another person that you get to collaborate with sometimes, is puppet makers. And that can be really, really good fun. So that gave him an idea of what I wanted visually. And then he came back with a sort of technical version of that. And then we tried different versions out in rehearsals and things until we got the mechanics of that right. but fundamentally this was the sort of the starting point for things like that. So again, lots of lovely visual research and things on that. But I'm just going to now quickly share my screen, and I'm going to show you. Right, so this is what the set actually looked like in practice. So you can see here, can everybody see that all right? Just checking. So you can see our band in there, and lots of instruments, and when it really poured down with rain, it was all quite nerve-wracking and hoping nobody was going to get electrocuted. And we got the ladders up the side, you can see one of the performers, and this was the first place it performed, and it was in front of a place called Chilham Castle in Kent. And you can see the girls looking a little bit chilly there. It was a very chilly day in kind of late May 4 years ago. And so this then, you know, had to all pack down into a van. So that's another thing that you have to think about, is how long will it take to put the set up and take it back down again? And how and where is it all going to break down? Because you might be able to see over here, there's a kind of line there, and that shows you one of what we call the break points. And I think there's another one there. So this whole wiggly section broke down into one section, and then this all came apart and everything, you know. So there's quite a lot to think about, but you don't have to do it on your own. You get help with that. So the people that built this set they were based over in Sussex actually, and I used to go and visit the workshop over there, but they help you work out where all the breakpoints are going to go and how it's going to get built. And so what I wanted to provide with this was a really good playground for the actors to run around on. People were going to be sitting on the ground and looking at it, not all with tiered seating. So we wanted lots of height as well up here so that everyone could be seen, and that it would have a big impact even without lighting, which is why I went for these bright colours, because we didn't have theatre lighting on this show a lot. So so that was that. But now I'm going to give you a little bit of a chat about costume design. So this is a show called Peter Pan, that some of you may have seen actually, because it's actually available to watch to schools from the National Theatre. And if you haven't, why not ask your drama teacher or your art teacher or somebody to see if you can watch it, because I think it's accessible for most schools. And this as you can see, is quite a sort of eccentric looking piece, and the costume design for this came out of the fact that myself and the director didn't want anybody to look like, I suppose, nobody to look like versions of Peter Pan that we'd seen before. So you can see here our Captain Hook was a woman, and which obviously in itself was quite radical at the time. So we wanted to make her as big as possible, so we gave her this big skirt. I'm just going to show you what was under that. This is the costume drawing for her. So this was the initial costume drawing that I did, and she has these big chunky shoes on, because the actress that was going to play her, unfortunately she had an accident, so she was fine, but she was quite little, and so we wanted to make her as tall as possible, so we gave her these big stacky shoes. But under her skirt is this big thing, what we call a cage or a crinoline, and that is just one of the things that supports, so it just gives you an idea of all the details that you have to go into when you're designing a costume, and you have to have meetings with people about all these things and decide all the fabrics. And these are the jackets for her jacket, so you have to think about the buttons and the braid and all the different fabrics and the lining. And this was Peter's, and it's the same thing. And of course with Peter Pan, the tricky thing with this is that all the costumes have to have holes in them because of their harnesses. They all wear harnesses. So you can see in this photograph, Paul, who played Peter Pan. So this is everybody standing around in the rehearsal rooms at the National Theatre. So that's Gwen here, who is doing, can you see that I'm moving the cursor? Yes. That's Gwen, who was the flight director. So she was telling Paul everything that he needed to learn. And then these are two of the production managers standing around thinking about how they can problem solve some of the issues. But you can see all these big harnesses, and you need to make all the costumes have holes in them so that you can clip people in and out of them. And this was the rig that we had in the rehearsal so that they could rehearse all that movement. So this was a this was one of the reference sheets that I put together for Captain Hook. And this was another one for the makeup and hair. She actually ended up having gold teeth, which were very, very expensive. They cost around £500 for her teeth and things. So we just looking at all the hair and makeup for that. And this is the costume drawing for Tinkerbell. So we had a man playing Tinkerbell, and he was quite an eccentric character with his tutu and things. Lots of work with the actors, as well as trying to decide how they were going to be costumed. And these were our pirates. So all these actors that were playing lots of different parts had to get in and out of their costumes very quickly. So I designed lots of things that could be put on fast, but would also be individual to all of them, but they would keep all their pajama bottoms underneath. Because the show was so physical, they had to wear something very comfortable. So they were basically in vests and pajamas, and then everything went over the top of that and on and off. But all of these were hand painted by the brilliant costume department at the National Theatre. So they each had their own jacket, their own coat with its own different stripe on it. Right, how am I doing for time, people? We all right?
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, okay, I'll just do a couple more minutes. So these are all our, these are the mermaids. So we've got boys being mermaids as well as girls. You might recognize this actor, Echo Corti. He was actually, I think, in the first 2 Harry Potter films, but obviously he was very young then, so he doesn't look so young anymore. So they did a big dance sequence. So you might be thinking, well, why, if they're mermaids, why don't they have fishtails? But actually they did loads of dancing. So instead, you can just see down here, we gave them big swimming flippers. So they had to do all their dancing in these big swimming flippers instead. So it was just a sort of fun thing. And then this was the costume for Nana the dog. So we wanted him to have a kind of dog-like thing, but also to look like a sort of maid as well. I'll just show you. So this is Echo again, being the dog there. And this is the family, or the Darling family, all driving him insane by making the bed all messy and things. What else? Oh, this was Tiger Lily. So she was, we didn't want, because the actress, she obviously wasn't of Native American heritage. So we wanted something that was going to be more appropriate for who she was. And so we looked, working with her, I didn't actually design this until we got into rehearsals, because I wanted a lot of feedback from her. And actually we looked at a style called Afro punk, which was very kind of happening at the time 4 or 5 years ago, and it's a very powerful look, and it's brilliant. If you look online, there's some amazing things. And so this was in the end what we put her into, and it felt really right to her. So that was a classic situation where a costume design comes out of the actress's you know, what she feels about the piece. But it was a very physical show. This is John swinging around. You can see the band back here, and you can see this is Neverland, and you can see it was an unconventional, I didn't do the set on this, Michael Vale designed the set for this, but it was a very unconventional kind of Neverland. It wasn't the normal sort of Neverland. And then just a quick last look at Peter. So you see we put him in this green suit, and so again, an unusual, and it looked like he was sort of growing out of it. So although he was an adult, he wasn't the usual young actor playing Peter. He was a sort of almost middle-aged man, but he was like he's grown out of his suit. But that's, I think, probably enough from me. So let's hand over to Maria.
Thank you, Katie. That was great. One of our audiences says that they've watched that exact Peter Pan play, and it was their very, very favourite.
Good.
Hi everyone, I'm Maria. I'm a theatre design student, and I'm currently here in Downside Road in one of the design studios. And as you can see, there's lots of interesting things around me. We've got some model boxes like what Katie was just talking about, lots of pictures and stuff on the wall, and then a puppet just there. She's actually called Primrose, and she was made for one of the shows that we did last term. So there's always crazy stuff happening here, and even during COVID and during the lockdown, we found really creative ways of carrying on our learning. Some of the shows have gone online, but now we're back in the building and we're hoping to make work again in theatres for the summer. So just a little bit about me. I did a BA, and I did my BA in 2011, which was a long time ago now, but I didn't do it in theatre design. I did a general, it was kind of like English and drama. And I didn't know what really I wanted to do, but I'd always been really interested in art, and I painted. And so I went and worked in between my BA, and I'm doing an MA, so a master's. And I went off and worked for quite a few years before I decided to come to the theatre school. So there's a range of different ages here, and it's never too late to decide what you want to do, or, you know, think about what might take your fancy if you actually start to pick up a bit of work experience as well. So that's a little bit about me. What I'm just going to show you briefly is something called a technical drawing, which Katie's model box that she showed you in there, and actually all of our models here, whenever as designers we create a model box, we have to create a technical drawing for the team that will build the sets for you. And if you're like me, I was really bad at maths at school, and this will seem really scary, but actually, if I can do it, I really promise you anyone can do it. And you don't have to be good at maths. This is actually all about shapes and problem solving, and just thinking about, you know, clever little ways that things fit together. So if you like puzzles and things like that, then you might like the look of this. So I'm just going to share my screen with you. So this is a program called CAD, C-A-D, and this was for a show that I designed last term called 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, which is an adventure story, a Victorian adventure story. Now, sadly, this was just before COVID hit over Christmas, so we didn't do the show in real life in the end, but this was then made into a Zoom film, which we then created together online. But this sort of thing is really useful for production managers, for stage managers, and construction and painters, because what they want to know is exactly how something tiny and small scale, what it will look like and what all the dimensions are, so they know what materials to buy, if it's made of wood, if it's made of metal, if it's cast or made out of some sort of foam. I mean, it can be made out of absolutely anything. And what I wanted to do here is, I'm really interested in using recyclable materials. So I based this show around, I zoom in here, 3 little recycling bins that were kind of looked like mini submarines, and we put it under a little bridge. And so the actors would pull out lots of recycled stuff out of these bins to discover during the show under the sea. So this was me. There's lots of notes on here, which some people like and some people don't like, but just like what Katie was saying, some of these things you work out in the rehearsal room that you need to just show. For example, here, you know, I've made that tall enough for someone to walk under. What would that look like? I would put this on a CAD drawing. So this side-on view is called a section. We've then got a front elevation, which is basically what it looks like to an audience. A plan, which is what it would look like if you were a bird's eye view. And then down here, I've just got some little bin diagrams there. So that's basically the summary of what that is. And that's just an element of the technical side of design and what we do. But also, if you were doing production arts or making props, I myself have also done a prop and pattern making, and you could also use this program to do that sort of thing. So yeah, I think that's everything. I'm not going to dwell on that for too long because it makes your eyes go a bit funny.
Thank you, Maria. That was really good. I think we have some questions now for the panel. Okay, so the first one was just about what website to go on for more information for applying to the school.
So I can pop that link in the chat if that would be easier.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah,
you can pop it in the chat to everyone.
Just as a note, the website can be a bit difficult to navigate. So I'm going to send you to the course finder. And then if you find the course through there, then that'll take you to the web page, and then just follow the relevant links from there onwards. Okay.
Thank you. Somebody's asked, can you specialise, for example, in film or musical theatre?
So from my understanding, as a caveat to this, I did start at the school about a month and a half ago. So I'm hoping my answer is going to be correct. From my understanding, you specialise in an area of, if you're thinking about technical, you'd specialise in perhaps lighting or stage management or sound. And for acting, you do all genres. So we don't specialise specifically in a genre of theatre or film. It's more, we want to make you a well-rounded graduate, so you can then go and specialise when you finish with us. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. I think that's good. Do they need specific grades to get in?
No, we don't have academic requirements. We just want to see your practical ability. So we assess all acting students. We invite them all to audition, and those are held on Zoom this year. And for those on technical courses, for costume, you're invited to interview immediately. And then for production arts, we'll have a look at your personal statement and your portfolio, and then invite you to interview from there. But we don't have academic requirements, but we do ask that you meet our standard requirements, which are from the University of West England, but they are by no means super high or anything like that. So I wouldn't be worried if you're not academically minded.
So during auditions for BA professional acting, are there any dance audition pieces needed?
From my understanding, I don't think there are. I think it's just an acting piece that's needed, but in the workshops, you may be required to perhaps do some movement workshops and things like that, but it wouldn't be that you'd have to prepare a piece in advance, because we are more focused on the acting side of things. We do incorporate movement, dance and singing, but it is more acting focused with us.
Okay, thank you. Our next question is, if you're wanting to go into acting / musical theatre, are there advantages if you go to a school or college at 16 rather than 18, or does it not matter? No,
we take people from any age, and we actually find that a lot of people who come on our acting course aren't 18. They happen to be, 20, 21, because it's just the way it seems to work with us. So there's absolutely no pros and cons to going to college at 16 or going at 18, if that helps.
I think they were also getting at is school, so I guess school's sixth form over going to college and studying.
No, sorry, yeah, I must have misunderstood. There's no benefit to going to either. It's all on the skills you can demonstrate from your learning at your institution. It doesn't matter if you go to either one. We want to see you and your skills and your passion and your enthusiasm for the subject. So wherever you can get that, go for it.
So which course would be best if you wanted to get into TV / film acting?
So you're probably looking at the BA acting course there if you're going to be an actor, or perhaps if you didn't want to do it as a 3-year undergraduate course, you could go and study something else at a different university, perhaps, something like Maria did, or something that you might want to study for 3 years, and then come and do an MA in screen acting, which is actually new this year. So those would be your two options.
Thank you. What sort of work experience can you do as an actor?
So I'm assuming this is before entry, so to help you get in to the school. If I'm wrong, please do pop it in the chat and I'll answer it again. So there will be local community theatre groups that you could get involved with. There will be also, Katie and Maria, if you have any other things to chime in with, please do. So there may be productions going on in your school or in your college or local places you could get involved with to get that experience. And from my experience, I'm from the countryside. I know there was a local Amdram there, and there will be things you almost just have to seek them out, but also definitely go and ask your drama teachers or production teachers, because they will definitely know what's available in your area to get that experience. But basically anything and everything performance based is experience for us. And yeah, whether that be in school, outside of school, in college, do just get involved with anything you can find.
Yeah, I think that's the last question. There was one on what program we were using, the CAD, but I've just popped that in the chat. Maria's put it in the chat for us. So has anybody else got any more questions for Katie, Maria or Anastasia?
Maria, can I ask you a question? Where did you study your BA? Because if you came to a theatre school after you did your first degree, would you mind sharing where you went for that?
Yeah, of course. I studied in York, the Uni of York, actually, which it's a different course now. I think is BA Writing, Directing and Performance, or it's kind of changed a bit, but it was essentially English and drama. But I was someone that found I was really happy because I got really good A-level. I didn't think I'd get, those A-level results. So I was offered a decent uni, and I thought I'll go for it. But it was more academic than I would like. So for me, I'm someone that loves the conservatoire style training because I really wanted to get my hands dirty, and I wasn't able to do that on my BA. So my journey was that I did that and I saw the BA through, and I learned academic skills from that. But then I went out I chose to work for several years. I formed my own theatre company. I got involved in all of local community stuff where I lived. And then, very badly timed with a pandemic. No one saw that coming. But I then thought, I'd heard about theatre school, and I taught myself so much on my own, but I really wanted to bring it all together and learn in a community. Basically, it's, I like being around people. That is, like Katie said, is more than half of the job is working in a team. And there's no other place to do that, really. Uni is a completely different experience from that. So, it's okay to change your mind and feel like that's the sort of environment you want to be in. Yeah.
Thank you.
I think just following on from that, so I actually studied at the University of Bristol, and I graduated a couple of years ago, and I did music. So I'm an art student, and from working at the theatre school for less than 2 months, I know that I sort of had the same opinion as Maria. Now I wish I'd gone to the Olvic Theatre School, because I really like getting my hands dirty and all of that kind of stuff, and just being around everybody. There's such like a buzz in the place. Everyone's there all the time, and it's such a community feel. And as Maria said, if you like being around people, you like communicating, working in groups and doing practical things and writing very few essays, to be honest, from anecdotally what I've heard, then this is definitely the place. And we'd love to have you and love to have applications. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to email us, or look on our YouTube site and things like that, because there's lots of resources out there.
Can I just quickly say, can you hear me, guys? Yeah, can I just quickly say that my route through was via doing an art foundation course, and I don't always think that people get told about the art foundation courses, because they're free and you do them after sixth form. And even if you were thinking, oh, I don't know, I might want to do technical, or I might want to be an actor and think, but I also really like art, there's absolutely no harm in doing an art foundation course. And if you were to say apply to do one of the technical theatre courses, the production arts, doing an art foundation course would just give you a portfolio of stuff, and it would teach you about concepts and ideas and all those sorts of things. And that's free if you do it immediately after your sixth form. And there's usually, in most cities, there's at least 1 or 2 art foundation courses. I did mine in Brighton, but I know here in Bristol there's 3, there's one in Bath. So that's just letting people know that, because people don't always know about those. So yeah.
Thank you. Lots of different options and lots of different routes for people.
Yeah, and I also second that. I still, even now at this level, I always think back to my art A-level teacher and my art I did at school. Those foundation years, that has helped me the most, I would say, in putting together sketchbooks, and just knowing how to put those sorts of visual references together. So yeah, that is kind of where it started for me, and I went on to paint from there.
Thank you. We've got one more quick question in the chat. Do you have to do sixth form before auditioning to go to the Bristol Theatre School, or can you go after year 11?
So this is something that I'm not 100% sure on the answer about, so I don't want to give you a wrong answer. What I can do, I don't know, Jo, is I can find out the answer and get it across to you, and perhaps you could send that across, because I don't want to say yes or to say no. I think anecdotally from what I've heard, I've not really heard of us having under 18 students on our BA acting. Purely just because it's a really competitive course and people apply perhaps a couple of years in a row, but I will definitely find that out and let you know if that's okay.
Okay, yeah, thank you.